Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Boss Up and Glow Up with Lexi Sample. I'm your host, and in this podcast, we're always talking about mental health, how to glow up, and just how to be the best possible version of yourself overall because it's hard. It is so hard, especially in your 20s, trying to navigate and figure out what is best for us. I feel like so many of us spend so much time grinding, working, and we are just stressing ourselves out. Today, we're talking about something that I genuinely think almost everybody is struggling with, especially right now. We're in such like grind culture, and whether you realize it or not, your brain is never truly resting. And because of that, you are exhausted, not just physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted. Your nervous system is exhausted. Like, I really need us to talk about how normalized overstimulation has become because I think people keep calling themselves lazy when they're just mentally overloaded 24/7. And I feel like if you take a second to rest, like maybe you have one day out of the week you want to like lay in bed, watch your favorite show, or do whatever, you tell yourself you're lazy and you feel lazy. And trust me, I had to realize that about myself too. There were days where I was sitting there thinking, like, why can I not focus on the simplest tasks? Why do I feel so emotionally drained all the time? Why am I so irritable and angry? Why do I feel exhausted even when I'm technically rested? I got 8 hours of sleep, so why am I so exhausted? Meanwhile, the second I wake up, I go on my phone. I go on TikTok, Instagram, I read my emails for work, hella notifications. I'm listening to podcasts while I'm driving and on my walks. There's just always some type of noise, and there's constant stimulation all day and all night. And when I'm in bed at night, I wonder why my brain feels so scrambled. Like I cannot just turn off my thoughts. And I'm just like, babe, your nervous system has not had a singular moment of silence in a fucking month. And I think we've gotten so used to constantly consuming that being alone with our own thoughts almost feels uncomfortable and scary. This episode is going to be one giant reality check because I think a lot of you are not lazy or unmotivated or failing at life. I think a lot of you, your brain is exhausted from never taking a break. Your brain was not designed for constant stimulation. I genuinely do not think human brains were meant to consume this much information every single day. Like, think about how much stimulation we absorb before noon to now. Like, this morning, okay, my alarm went off at like 7:50-ish because I had a 9:15 Pilates class. So, stimulation. My alarm went off. My dog is asking to go to the bathroom. She's asking for breakfast. I go on my phone and scroll on TikTok before I even wake up in the morning. I listen to a podcast on my walk. And that is so much stimulation just before 9 o'clock in the morning. That is a lot. We wake up and we immediately check our phone and see social media, see our emails, and we're just seeing so many things. Your brain is processing so much information constantly. And the craziest part is that most people never even give themselves a second to pause. Like the second that there's silence, people grab their phone. Waiting in line, you scroll on your phone. In bed, phone. Eating, phone, or maybe even TV. Going to the bathroom, you're on your fucking phone. And trust me, I'm calling myself out too because I realized I was doing this constantly. I noticed I could literally not sit in silence anymore. And even when I was relaxing, quote unquote relaxing, I was still consuming something. I would be watching TV while scrolling on TikTok while texting someone back. That's not rest. Your brain is still processing stimulation. And I think people underestimate how exhausting that is for your nervous system in the long run because your brain never fully powers down anymore. There's no off button on your brain anymore. I swear, the majority of people calling themselves lazy are actually just mentally overloaded because when your brain is constantly overstimulated, basic tasks start to feel overwhelming. Like you're struggling to focus on the simplest thing, you procrastinate more, you feel emotionally reactive, maybe you get a little irritable. You feel mentally foggy. You start doom scrolling because your attention span just gets worse and worse. And you feel tired all the time, even if you got good sleep. And then people shame themselves for it. Meanwhile, their brain hasn't experienced genuine quiet in months. And honestly, I noticed this especially with social media and as being a content creator, because that's half my job is stimulation. There were times where I would spend hours consuming content and then I wonder why I suddenly felt anxious, insecure, overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unmotivated afterwards. Because your brain is not meant to compare itself to 7 million people before noon. Before noon! And social media especially creates this feeling that you should be constantly doing more things, like being more productive, you should be more successful, you should be more attractive, have a better body, be more disciplined, more just everything. Everything under the sun you feel like you should be more of. And your brain never gets a chance to feel settled because you're constantly being shown a new thing that you need to improve. And not need to improve, you should improve. And eventually, your nervous system gets exhausted from constantly feeling behind. Rest and distraction are not the same thing. And this realization changed everything for me. Scrolling is not rest. Binge watching shows for 12 hours is not always rest. Constantly consuming content is not rest. Distraction and rest are two completely different things. And I think a lot of people confuse numbing themselves with resting because real rest actually allows your nervous system to calm down. Real rest might look like taking a walk, but not having your headphones in, just taking a nice walk and actually looking at nature, actually spending time with your dog if you have a dog, like maybe reading, stretching, journaling, just being in quiet, no noise, making sure you have enough sleep, just having moments with quiet and no stimulation. But most of us are constantly distracting ourselves instead. Like, I would catch myself walking my dog as I have a podcast in, and then sometimes I'd be like, I'm over this podcast. Let me like scroll on TikTok. Like, what? And then I'm not watching where I'm going. I'm not watching my surroundings. Like, what is wrong with me? What was I doing? And honestly, I think part of the reason people avoid quiet is because silence forces you to sit with yourself. And that can feel uncomfortable. Like, I realized sometimes I wasn't even scrolling because I enjoyed it. I was scrolling because I didn't want to think. I didn't want to feel stressed. I didn't want to be anxious or uncomfortable or just hear quiet. So I distracted myself instead. And the problem is, distractions don't actually regulate your nervous system in the long run, they just temporarily numb it. Your nervous system is probably stuck in survival mode if this is what you do. And this is something I think we really need to understand. When your brain is constantly overloaded with things, your nervous system starts operating like everything is urgent all the time. Do you ever catch yourself just like rushing through things, even if it's not that serious? Like, for example, I would have food in the microwave and I would be rushing around trying to like go to the bathroom. I would wipe the counter. Like, I would do so many things to be done by the time the microwave is done. And like, why am I rushing for everything? It is not an emergency. Why am I treating everything like it's an emergency? And that is why you feel restless, even when nothing is technically wrong. Your body gets stuck in this constant low level stress state. And honestly, I noticed this in myself when I started realizing how difficult it became for me to fully relax. Like, even when I sat down to rest, my brain was still racing. I was thinking about work. I was thinking about content I need to make. I was thinking about responsibilities, thinking about everything I should be doing, thinking about what I forgot to do, thinking about what I could be doing. And I just think so many people have normalized functioning in survival mode and functioning like everything is an emergency. We're constantly anxious. We're constantly overstimulated. We're constantly multitasking and consuming things, and that is not normal. Your nervous system needs recovery time. And no, I'm not saying everyone needs to just fucking disappear and meditate for half your day, but your brain does need moments where it's not constantly processing stimulation. And now your attention span is fucked. I have no attention span anymore. I really, truly don't. And can we talk about how impossible it feels to focus lately? Because I know I am not the only one who can't fucking focus on anything anymore. I used to think I had zero discipline because I would sit down to do something and I would immediately go on my phone. And I realized my brain has been basically trained to expect dopamine every 2 seconds. TikTok especially has destroyed people's ability to tolerate boredom. Everything is so fast paced now. Fast videos, like if a video is longer than like 30 seconds, I scroll. Fast entertainment, just fast stimulation. So when it comes to doing something slower, like studying, working out, reading, editing, cleaning, journaling, anything else, your brain immediately goes, wait, where's the stimulation? And honestly, boredom has become something people avoid at all costs. But boredom is actually important. Some of your best ideas happen in silence. Some of your emotional processing happens in silence. Some of your creativity happens in silence. But if your brain is constantly distracted, there is no room for that anymore. I think people imagine burnout as like completely crashing the fuck out and being unable to function. But honestly, burnout can look really subtle at first. You might not even notice that you're burnt out. You might hear this podcast and be like, wait, I am burnt out. What the hell? You start to become emotionally numb and you stop feeling excited about things. You feel irritated easily. Everything feels mentally heavy. You procrastinate constantly and you feel exhausted no matter how much sleep you get. Like the tiniest little tasks feel overwhelming. Like something as simple as like putting dishes in the dishwasher may feel overwhelming. And the scary part is people often respond to burnout by pushing themselves even harder. I just need more caffeine, maybe more pressure, more productivity, more guilt, maybe guilt tripping myself. Instead of asking, does my brain need some rest? And trust me, I am so guilty of this. There are so many times where I catch myself trying to earn rest instead of recognizing that rest is literally a biological need. Your brain needs recovery the same way your body does. When you are going to the gym, do you work out back every single day? No. Because why? Your back will need recovery. It's the same thing with your brain. And honestly, I think hustle culture has convinced people they should constantly be productive to deserve worth. And that mindset will destroy your nervous system over time. You need more silence than you think. I genuinely believe most people are terrified of silence now because silence forces you to slow down enough to actually hear yourself think, how to actually process your emotions and your feelings and just process everything. And when I started intentionally creating more quiet time in my life, I realized how loud my brain has become. Like I started taking walks without music sometimes or a podcast, like even driving in silence sometimes or sitting without immediately grabbing my phone. And at first it felt uncomfortable and really fucking weird, but eventually I noticed my anxiety lowering, my thoughts slowing down, my focus improving. Your brain needs moments where it's not constantly reacting to stimulation. And some of the clearest moments in my life came after I stopped drowning my brain in noise all day. Because when your brain is never resting, you lose connection with yourself. You stop hearing your intuition. You stop noticing your emotions. You stop processing things properly. Everything just becomes noise. And I think people treat peace like it's something that just randomly happens instead of something that you actively protect. Protecting your peace is a skill. Your environment affects your nervous system, and your habits affect your nervous system. The content you consume affects your nervous system, and the people around you affect your nervous system. And I had become way more intentional about what I allow into my brain because not everything deserves access to your mental space. Your mental space should be your sanctuary. Not every argument or celebrity drama deserves your attention. Not every notification needs an immediate response or a reaction, and not every opinion deserves emotional energy. And honestly, constant access to everybody all the time is so exhausting and so draining. You are allowed to disconnect from things. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to log off. You are allowed to protect your energy. And that does not make you lazy. That makes you emotionally intelligent. Your brain needs recovery time, and I think people really need to stop treating themselves like robots. You are a human being, not a productivity robot. Your brain needs sleep, quiet, slower moments, emotional processing, real, true rest, and time away from stimulation. And honestly, I think some of you would feel dramatically better mentally if you simply just reduce the amount of constant noise in your life. Not forever, just enough to let your nervous system just breathe again. Because burnout is not always about doing too much physically. It's about consuming too much mentally, and your brain can only process so much before it starts begging you for rest. And that is something I really truly needed to work on because I consume so much, especially as a content creator, because I'm like scrolling, looking for inspo, researching, looking for ideas to film, like spending so much time on my phone. My brain never rests because I'm also a student. So if I'm not researching podcast topics, I'm studying for my test for school because I have finals coming up, or I'm working. I work in a psych hospital, so I have my patients. And then also sometimes that comes home with me too. Like some things my patients say like sticks with me, like some of their really sad stories. So then I'm constantly thinking about that at night. Like my brain just never, ever, ever turns off. And that's something I truly, really need to work on. I want at least, maybe start with like 10 minutes a day of just quiet. I would like to get up to 30, but right now I'm not there yet. But I'm really trying because I needed to hear this. Like, this was a perfect episode because I needed to hear it. So saying it out loud is really drilling it in my skull, okay? And honestly, I think one of the most important forms of self care right now is learning how to give your brain actual rest again. Like, not just doing your skincare or meditating or going to the gym. This is self care, not constant distraction, not endless doom scrolling, not numbing your feelings or your emotions, real, true rest because you deserve to feel mentally present in your own life again. Sometimes you feel like you're not even in your own life, you're just there. All right, y'all. That is the end of today's episode. That's all I had for you today. And if this episode made you realize that you might actually be overstimulated and mentally exhausted instead of lazy, same. Me fucking too, okay? As always, don't forget to like the episode, give me a comment, give me feedback. I love to hear insight and input if this was helpful, if it's stupid. Like, I just want to know your opinions. Don't be mean, okay? I'm asking for feedback, not mean, okay? Which most of you haven't been mean, but I mean, there's some people that are like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay. But thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Boss Up and Glow Up. I love you so, so, so much. And I hope you remember to slow down, please. See you next week.